but some are. Again, I'm shooting with a shotgun and I'm shooting with a rifle. So if you get hit, and you just brush it off. Okay? Pushing a button is not planning. Watching movies. How? If what I'm saying is not true, how do we get 4 or 5 calls from parents saying, I don't want my kid watching Netflix in class? How does that happen? How can you watch Netflix in class if a teacher is, I know they got Chromebooks, but if you're up and engaged and doing what you're taught in student teaching to move around the room at all times and keep position and keep them engaged and all that stuff, how can they watch Netflix movies? You know how they do it? Because I lecture for 45 minutes and then I sit up there and give them busy work to do. Okay? That's my perspective. I don't know that it's true. Okay? The bottom line is changing instruction is hard work. It's rolling up your sleeve. It's getting dirty. It ain't fun. I told you I can't do it. I'm too old now. I can't do it. I really don't know that I could be that fired up. I changed the math. I loved history. I changed the math because I could not be entertaining enough every day in history and spend the hours it takes to keep them engaged. Am I lying? I mean, I'm just telling you. But in math, it's pretty simple. I go and I review last night's concept or yesterday's concept. I introduce a new concept. We practice it all together. I go back and check for understanding. And then I got just a few minutes to finish out. That's a math class. That's a good math class. You're really doing your job. And the block schedule, you're supposed to introduce 1.5 to 2 concepts a day, not just one concept. So you have no time to back up and sit down at your desk whatsoever. So it's hard work. So we got a new curriculum too, got new approaches. But I'll give you another observation. So I said, our kids are, for lack of a better word, slow in some acquisition. So let's cheat. Let's practice the test. Let's create these work key questions of the day. Let's make, I said ACT. I mean, I want to cheat. I want us to win. I want to be at the top. So they start putting together these videos. Yesterday's conversation with a student has 4 classes here. You know how many work keys videos he watched? 1 out of 4. Every teacher's supposed to be doing that every day, but on the bell ring. He saw 1 out of 4. 3 people didn't do it. They didn't do it. But if a kid don't have an ID or something, then that's the problem with the school. I don't believe that. Now, I believe we need to all work, and I'll do my part to address this, but I do not believe that that's the difference. I'll make one last point to that. We have a student here right now, great kid, senior athlete, 3.7 GPA, has taken all hard courses up here. 3.7. Scored 14 on the ACT. 14. You know why he got a 3.7? He's a good kid. He comes every day. He always has his assignments. You never have to speak to him. He does all his homework. And the teachers like him, and he cooperates when you sit there and you do seat work. He actually does it. But the question is, did he retain any knowledge? The study would say with a 14 on the ACT, he didn't learn nothing. But he has a 3.7 here. So there's something amiss there in our perspective. And this might be, you remember when you were in elementary school and you used to get, maybe I'm so old that they don't do it anymore, but back then you would have a class and you would get a grade and you'd get a behavior grade. You remember that? Raven would make A and C minus. A and C minus. And because I get distracted. I'm a boy. I'm smacking some girl doing whatever. And I made A all the time. Georgia, I hate to bring it up, they cringe in the football athletic department when I say Georgia. Georgia decided when we were doing the Rate Ruby Payne and we were making a difference in student achievement. They now, students in every class, receive 2 grades. There's a rubric that's called a work ethic rubric, and that is a grade. And then there is an academic success grade, which is their true academic grade. I'll give you an example. I sat in meetings as a faculty member and went over a table just about ready to choke somebody because we had teachers in there that had a kid in his class and he had made an 85 on the end of course test and he was failing them because he hadn't been doing his homework. Like, how stupid is that? If my exam tells me what we're supposed to be achieving, student achievement is, and because a kid didn't have the right work ethic, but he understands 85% of everything I presented, that sucker needs to pass. Oh, no, I mean, what are you teaching them in life? No, you're right. That's what a work ethic grade is for, okay? And so if we can do that, and the industry look at that, and you say, all right, this kid has this IQ, and he has this work ethic. And then they make the decision, okay? But when we lump them all together, achievement is put down because we do not have traditional learners. So, my contention is, we spend a lot of times chasing rabbits, and elephants are stomping all over Westside High School students. That's just what I believe. You can agree with the truth as I perceive it, or you can disagree with my perception of the truth. My best friend in the whole wide world is my black defensive line coach at Carrollton, who's also a pastor. And his famous quote, every time me and him would go in and have one of these hard conversations about something we were doing, he'd always look at me and he'd say, Big Mama always said, castor oil can do you some good if you can hold it down. So that's all I'm saying to you today. Now, this is my question for you. I promise you can't hurt my feelings, but the reason I left the last 2 times is because I want you to attack, tear it up, whatever, and maybe, I don't know why, my wife says I'm scary. I don't think I'm scary at all, but maybe you would not bash me or say anything else if I'm standing in the room. And I want you, because this is just a perspective that hopefully challenges your perspective, and maybe it'll make a difference. It don't mean it's all right or it needs to be that. So I would prefer, if you think I'm going to hinder the process, I would prefer to leave the room and let y'all be the professionals. And I do appreciate what you do. Don't take it like that at all. I appreciate it. And you made great strides, but I don't want to be good. I want to be great. And I don't want to go backwards. I really don't want to go backwards. But I want to make sure that we're really making the difference that we're hired to make.
Okay, thank you so much. By the way, see what happens when you send out an email about teacher absences. Good Lord punishes you tenfold. I was going to die or come to that, but I feel like yucky. Okay, so I think what he said is true. I opened up this can of worms because somebody just shot straight with me. And this is me. You can talk to me. I am a filter for you. I decide what I take back to the admin team and what I handle on my own. Okay? But you gotta be able to trust me. Mr. Taylor's in here, you gotta be able to trust him. We gotta hear from you. That's my leadership style. You just heard the Reverend Teague talk, now I wanna hear the deacons talk. Corey's gonna wanna see it, so you might as well leave it running. Or do y'all want it off? Does it matter? Okay.
Video?
Alright, it's video, yeah. We do every week on team meetings, so the teachers that aren't here can see what we did. Okay, who wants to say something?
I'll start. I think there's truth in both sides. And I'll be the first person to tell you, as a teacher, I know exactly where I fit in the instruction stuff. I mean, I'm a social studies guy, I'm a history guy. I teach, I lecture, and I do group work or individual work, so I fit that, I do. I'm part of the problem, and I'm gonna be part of the solution. But I also know that to get the results, if I'm gonna be able to center my focus on the instruction, and I'm trying to speak, I guess, on behalf of everybody, we gotta know that we don't have to worry about the other. You know what I mean? So, and I agree with what he's saying about IDs and all that stuff, you know, you kind of fighting fights that don't necessarily need to be fought. So, but there's gotta be something across the board, you know, in regards to what is expected. I, of course, have been doing this long enough to where I worked for administration that the fewer times they heard from you and the fewer problems they had in your class, the better. Like, so if you handled everything within your classroom and you maintained your classroom, however you needed to do it, if you handled it in there, that was praised upon. And then, of course, you know, there's some, they want you to write up every single thing you do, well, then you hear about all the workload you're putting on people and how they're overwhelmed and overrun. So I've always been the kind of guy that tries to keep everything within my classroom.
Okay, let me stop you right there. Everything you said is true. Your job is to teach. My job is to, when you write those kids up, to do something about it.
Yeah, and you're right.
That's the way I feel.
Yeah. So there have been times where, yeah, there's been kids that have been tardy in my class, and instead of, I'm one of those people that I don't write it all up. You know, I don't send in the tardies and all that. You know, I deal with it on my own. It's, you know, all right, stick around for a few minutes, come back after school, or come back during lunch, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm okay doing it that way, but if it's better for me to go back and say, oh, no, I'm gonna do it. If this is the way we're gonna do it, then this is the way I'm gonna do it. If
Right.
you're tardy, I'm writing it up. You know, if you don't have your idea, I'm writing it up.
Right.
You know, but then the downside is, yeah, I'm gonna say it's a downside, but then it's, you wanna focus on the instruction and you wanna focus on all this, but then at some point, you know, you've got all this referrals to put in, you know what I mean? So it is, you know, it becomes repetitive, and it's time consuming of time that, you know, especially those who are more, I don't say more, but just when you have all these different things to do, whether it's planning, whether it's plan book, whether it's grading papers, whether it's things outside, if you have an extracurricular activity that you do here, or whatever it might be, you feel like there's not enough time.
Okay. And I'm gonna stop you because I will give everybody a chance to stop. Okay? That's one of the things we're gonna learn from this next week. So anybody else that wants to say something, please join in. Let me tell you a couple of things about block 1 and block 2. There's some things that we can't change. Like, I hate block scheduling. When are we gonna, I can't change that. Why can't we get paid for our sick leave days like Georgia? I can't change that. So let's talk about, let's focus on the things that we can. And there's some things I wish Keena was in here. Well, Joey's in here. That's good. We got a guidance. Like, for instance, somebody in first block said, I'll tell you something that needs changing. The amount of time the kids have to spend in EOC testing and then turn right back around and take another 2 or 3 hour test. That's cumbersome on them. They shouldn't have to do that. So I said, well, Keena, who decides that? And she said, the state. So there's another example of, I can't change that. So let's focus on what hopefully we can change. Don't tiptoe around me. That's not gonna do either one of us any good.
I mean, I agree. I mean, like, if you got good classroom discussion, I don't care how bad of a kid you are, like you gonna join the class, you at least be somewhat respectful. And I've seen it done. I mean, I did it last year. And the only thing about the PE department is the lack of equipment and things to do. And I'm trying to get, you know, I've been talking to them about, like, let's get some grant, get some more things to do, because there's only a handful of things we can do. And you can only get them to buy into it for so long,
Right.
you know. That's my only problem, but I agree with the classroom.
I'm gonna tell you, Coach Strop and Coach Dawson and anybody else that says anything, email me